Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we have it's like the eye of the hurricane, where there's peace, and more than peace, there's blissful happiness as we hear the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the midst of the confusion of incompetent leaders trying to figure out what to do with the pandemic, which is refusing to go away, refusing to act like a party, in a party spirit. It just attacks everyone, everywhere. So therefore we have an untenable situation. But luckily for us, we have met His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who compiled in his Bhaktivedanta purports the absolute truth, spoken in plain English, in a way that we can understand. So lucky us. Count our blessings and continue to associate together with His Divine Grace in the center. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, had this to say about the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta, which we're reading at the moment. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So, we've reached the 17th chapter of the Madhya-lila. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is traveling from Jagannath Puri to Vrndävana. And on the way he's stopped in Kashi, where his great soul, his great devotees, Tapan Mishra and Chandrasekhar, are living in the heart of the stronghold of the Mayavadi sannyasis. So a Brahmana who had come to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to see Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur, who was the leader of the Mayavadi sannyasis. And in the process of explaining to him what he saw and how wonderful Lord Chaitanya was in his form, in his influence, in his bliss, Prakashananda Saraswati began to laugh and in different ways criticize the Lord. And when this devotee came back to Lord Chaitanya to explain what had happened, he mentioned that this Saraswati, this Prakashananda Saraswati Thakur, or sannyasi, was able to chant the name of Chaitanya 3 times, but he couldn't say the name of Krishna. Now Lord Chaitanya is explaining why that is. And we were right in the middle of that explanation when I ran out of gas. Sorry about that last night. So we're going to catch this explanation by Lord Chaitanya, why Prakashananda Saraswati could not chant the names of Krishna and Hari. We're beginning with text 138. Lord Chaitanya is now chanting a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, the son of Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami. It is he who defeats all inauspicious things within this universe. Although in the beginning he was absorbed in the happiness of Brahman realization and was living in a secluded place, giving up all other types of consciousness, he became attracted by the most melodious pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna. He therefore mercifully spoke the supreme Purana, known as Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the bright light of the absolute truth and which describes the activities of Lord Krishna. Purport. This verse was spoken by Sutta Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam 12:69, towards the end of the Bhagavatam. 139. The transcendental qualities of Sri Krishna are completely blissful and relishable. Consequently, Lord Krishna's qualities attract even the minds of self-realized persons from the bliss of self-realization. Atmaramas chamunayo nirgrantha apyarukrame kurvantya haitukim bhaktim itam bhuta ganoharihi. This is text 140. Those who are self-satisfied and unattracted by external material desires are also attracted to the loving service of Sri Krishna, whose qualities are transcendental and whose activities are wonderful. Hari, the personality of Godhead, is called Krishna because he has such transcendentally attractive features. Text 141. Apart from the pastimes of Lord Krishna, when tulsi leaves are offered at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, even the aroma of the leaves attracts the minds of self-realized persons. Text 142. When the breeze carrying the aroma of tulsi leaves and saffron from the lotus feet of the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead entered through the nostrils into the hearts of those sages, the Kumaras, they experienced a change in both body and mind, even though they were attached to the impersonal Brahman understanding. Purport. This is a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.43. Vidura and Maitreya discussed the pregnancy of Diti. Diti's pregnancy caused the demigods to be very much afraid, and the demigods went to see Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma explained the original incident involving the cursing of Jai and Vijay by the Chatuksana Kumaras. Once, the Chatuksana Kumaras went to Vaikuntha to visit Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they were stopped from entering the palace at the 7th gate by two doorkeepers named Jai and Vijay. Due to their jealousy, Jai and Vijay would not allow the Kumaras entry, and consequently the Kumaras became angry and cursed Jai and Vijay, condemning them to take birth in a family of Asuras in the material world. The omniscient personality of Godhead could immediately understand the incident, and he came with his eternal consort, the goddess of fortune. The Chatuksana Kumaras immediately offered their obeisances unto the Lord. Simply by seeing the Lord and smelling the aroma of tulsi and saffron from his lotus feet, the Kumaras became devotees and abandoned their long-cherished impersonalism. Thus the 4 Kumaras were turned into Vaishnavas simply by smelling the aromatic tulsi mixed with saffron. Those who are actually on the platform of Brahman realization and who have not offended the lotus feet of Krishna can immediately become Vaishnavas simply by smelling the aroma of the Lord's lotus feet. But those who are offenders or demons are never attracted to the Lord's personal feature, even though they may visit the Lord's temple many times. In Vrindavan we have seen many Mayavadi sannyasis who do not even come to the temple of Govindaji, Gopinath, or Madan Mohan, because they think that such temples are Maya. Therefore they are called Mayavadis. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said that the Mayavadis are the greatest offenders. Text 143. Because the Mayavadis are great offenders and atheistic philosophers, the holy name of Krishna does not come from their mouths. Purport. Because they are constantly blaspheming the Supreme Personality of Godhead by saying that He has no head, hands, or legs, Mayavadi philosophers remain offenders for many, many births, even though they have partially realized Brahman. However, if such impersonalists are not offenders at the lotus feet of the Lord, they immediately become devotees in the association of a devotee. In other words, if an impersonalist is not an offender, he can become a devotee if he gets a chance to associate with other devotees. If he is an offender, he cannot be converted even by the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very much afraid of this Mayavadi offender. Therefore, he spoke as follows. I have come here to sell my emotional, ecstatic sentiments in this city of Kashi, but I cannot find any customers. If they are not sold, I must take them back home. 145. I have brought a heavy load to sell in this city. To take it back again is a very difficult job. Therefore, if I get but a fraction of the price, I shall sell it here in this city of Kashi. Purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was selling the transcendental holy name of the Lord, but Kashi was a city of Mayavadis, impersonalists, and such people will never chant the holy names of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was feeling disappointed. How could he teach the Mayavadis the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? The attraction for chanting the holy name of the Lord belongs absolutely to pure devotees, and there was no possibility of finding pure devotees at Kashi. Consequently, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's commodity was certainly very heavy. The Lord therefore suggested that even though there were no pure devotees in Kashi, if someone was a little inclined to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, he would deliver this big load, even though the proper price was not paid. Actually, we experienced this when we came to preach the Hare Krishna movement in the West. When we came to New York in 1965, we never expected that the Hare Krishna Mahamantra would be accepted in this country. Nonetheless, we invited people to our storefront to join in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and the Lord's holy name is so attractive that simply by coming to our storefront in New York, fortunate young people became Krishna conscious. Although this mission was started with insignificant capital, it is now going nicely. The spreading of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the West has become successful because the young people were not offenders. The youths who joined this movement were not very advanced as far as purity is concerned, nor were they very educated in Vedic knowledge. But because they were not offenders, they could accept the importance of the Hare Krishna movement. We are now very happy to see that this movement is advancing more and more in the Western countries. We therefore conclude that the so-called mlechas and yavanas of the Western countries are more purified than offensive Mayavadis or atheistic impersonalists. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Text 146. After saying this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted that Brahmana as his devotee. The next morning, rising very early, the Lord started for Mathura. Text 147. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started for Mathura, all three devotees started to go with him, but the Lord forbade them to accompany him, and from a distance he asked them to return home. Feeling separation from the Lord, the three used to meet and glorify the holy qualities of the Lord. Thus they were absorbed in ecstatic love. Text 149. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then went to Prayag, where he bathed at the confluence of the Ganges and Yamuna. He then visited the temple of Vaini Madhava and chanted and danced there in ecstatic love. Purport. The city of Prayag is situated a few miles from the city of Allahabad. The name Prayag is given due to successful sacrifices performed there. It is said, Prakrishto yago yagapalam yasmat. If one performs sacrifices at Prayag, he certainly gets immediate results without difficulty. Prayag is also called Tirtharaj, the king of all places of pilgrimage. This holy place is situated on the confluence of the rivers Ganges and Yamuna. Every year, a fair takes place there known as Magh Mela, and every 12 years, a Kumbh Mela is also held. In any case, many people come to bathe there every year. During Magh Mela, people from the local district generally come, and during Kumbh Mela, people come from all over India to live there and bathe in the Ganges and Yamuna. Whoever goes there immediately feels the place's spiritual influence. A fort located there was constructed by the Emperor Akbar about 500 years ago, and near the fort is a place called Triveni. On the other side of Prayag is an old place known as Pratishtanapur. It is also well known as Jungsi. Many saintly people live there, and consequently it is very attractive from the spiritual point of view. Text 150. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the river Yamuna, he threw himself into it. Balabhadra Bhattacharya hastily caught the Lord and very carefully raised him up again. 151. The Lord stayed at Prayag for 3 days. He delivered the holy name of Krishna and ecstatic love. Thus he delivered many people. Text 152. Wherever the Lord stopped to rest on the way to Mathura, he delivered the holy name of Krishna and ecstatic love of Krishna. Thus he made the people dance. Text 153. When the Lord toured South India, he delivered many people, and when he traveled in the western sector, he similarly converted many people to Vaishnavism. Purport. Formerly, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu converted people when he toured southern and western India. Similarly, the Hare Krishna movement is now delivering the people of the Western world wherever devotees are chanting the holy names. This is all being done by the Lord's mercy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted that he would deliver people in every city and village of the world by giving them a chance to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Text 154. While the Lord was going to Mathura, he came across the river Yamuna several times. And as soon as he saw the river Yamuna, he would immediately jump in, falling unconscious in the water, in the ecstasy of love of God, a love of Krishna. Text 155. When he approached Mathura and saw the city, he immediately fell to the ground and offered obeisances with great ecstatic love. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the city of Mathura, he took his bath at Vishram Ghat. He then visited the birthplace of Krishna and saw the deity named Keshavaji. He offered his respectful obeisances to this deity. Purport. At the present moment, the temple of Keshavaji is very much improved. At one time, Keshavaji Mandir was attacked by the emperor Aurangzeb, who constructed such a big mosque there that the temple of Keshavaji was insignificant in comparison. But with the help of many rich Marwaris, the temple has been improved, and a very large temple is now being constructed, so that the mosque now appearing diminished in comparison. Many archaeological discoveries have been made there, and many people from foreign countries are beginning to appreciate Krishna's birthplace. This Krishna consciousness movement is attracting many foreigners to the Keshavaji temple, and now they will also be attracted by the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrndävana. Text 157. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chanted and danced and made loud vibrations, all the people were astonished to see his ecstatic love. 158. One Brahmana fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then began to dance with him in ecstatic love. 159. The two of them danced in ecstatic love and embraced each other. Raising their arms, they said, "Chant the holy names of Hari and Krishna." 160. All the people then began to chant, "Hari, Hari," and there was a great uproar. The priest in Lord Keshava's service offered Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu a garland. By the way, in that temple, now there's a beautiful deity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in sannyas, which is very rare. Text 161. When the people saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and chanting, they were struck with wonder, and they all said, "Such transcendental love is never an ordinary thing." Text 162. The people said, "Simply by seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone is maddened with love of Krishna. Indeed, everyone is laughing, crying, dancing, chanting, and taking the holy name of Krishna." Text 163. Certainly Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in all respects the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Now he has come to Mathura to deliver everyone. 164. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the Brahmana aside. Sitting in a solitary place, the Lord began to question him. 165. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You are an elderly Brahmana. You are sincere, and you are advanced in spiritual life. Wherefrom have you gotten this transcendental opulence of ecstatic love for Krishna? 166. The Brahmana replied, His Holiness Srila Madhavendra Puri came to the city of Mathura while he was on tour. Text 167. While at Mathura, Sripad Madhavendra Puri visited my house and accepted me as a disciple. He even took lunch at my home. Text 168. After installing the deity of Gopal, Srila Madhavendra Puri rendered him service. That very deity is still being worshipped at Govardhan Hill. Text 169. As soon as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard about Madhavendra Puri's relationship with the Brahmana, he immediately offered obeisances at his feet. Becoming fearful, the Brahmana also immediately fell at the Lord's feet. Text 170. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, You are on the platform of my spiritual master, and I am your disciple. Since you are my spiritual master, it is not befitting that you offer me obeisances. Wow. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Text 171. Upon hearing this, the Brahmana became afraid. He then said, Why do you speak like this? You are a sannyasi. 172. Upon seeing your ecstatic love, I can just imagine that you must have some relationship with Madhavendra Puri. This is my understanding. 173. This kind of ecstatic love can be experienced only when one has a relationship with Madhavendra Puri. Without him, even a scent of such transcendental ecstatic love is impossible. 174. Balabhadra Bhattacharya then explained the relationship between Madhavendra Puri and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After hearing this, the Brahmana became very pleased and began to dance. 175. The Brahmana then took Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home and, out of his own free will, began to serve the Lord in various ways. 176. He asked Balabhadra Bhattacharya to cook Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lunch. At that time, the Lord, smiling, spoke as follows. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Madhavendra Puri has already taken lunch at your place. Therefore you may cook and give me the food. That is my instruction. Text 178. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. This is a quotation from the Bhagavad Gita 3.21 purport. 179. The Brahmana belonged to the Sanodiya Brahmana community, and a sannyasi does not accept food from such a Brahmana. Purport. In northwestern India, Vaishyas are divided into various subdivisions. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur points out that they are divided as Agarwala, Kalawala, and Sanwada. Out of them, the Agarwalas are said to be first-class Vaishyas, and the Kalawalas and Sanwadas are considered lower due to their occupational degradation. The Kalawalas generally take wine and other intoxicants. Although they are Vaishyas, they are considered to belong to a lower class. The priests who guide the Kalawaras and the Sanwadas are called Sanodiya Brahmanas. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur states that the word Sanoyada in Bengal indicates Suvarna Vanik. In Bengal there are priests who guide the Suvarna Vanik community. which is also considered a low class. There is little difference between the Sanwadas and the Suvarnavaniks. Generally, the Suvarnavaniks are bankers dealing in gold and silver. In Western India, the Agarwalas also belong to the banking profession. This is the original business of the Suvarnavanik or Agarwala community. Historically, the Agarwalas come from the upcountry named Ayodhya. And the Suvarnavanik community also came from Ayodhya. And therefore it appears that the Suvarnavaniks and the Agarwalas belong to the same community. The Sanodiya Brahmanas were the guides of the Kalawaras and Sanwadas. They are therefore considered to be lower class Brahmanas, and a sannyasi is not allowed to take alms or food from them. However, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted lunch cooked by the Sanodiya Brahmana simply because he belonged to the Madhavendra Puri's community. Srila Madhavendra Puri was the spiritual master of Ishwara Puri, who was the spiritual master of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus, a spiritual relationship is established on the spiritual platform, without consideration of material inferiority or superiority. Text 180. Although the Brahmana belonged to the Sanodiya community, Srila Madhavendra Puri had seen that he behaved like a Vaishnava, and he had therefore accepted him as his disciple. The food he had cooked had also been accepted by Madhavendra Puri. Text 181. Therefore Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu willingly requested food from the Brahmana, and the Brahmana, feeling natural humility, began to speak as follows. Text 182. It is a great fortune for me to offer you food. You are the Supreme Lord, and being in the transcendental position, you are not restricted in any way. Text 183. Foolish people will blaspheme you, but I shall not tolerate the words of such mischievous people. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that although the Brahmana did not belong to a superior community, he fearlessly chastised so-called caste Brahmanas because he was situated on the platform of pure devotional service. There are people who are opposed to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's accepting a Vaishnava belonging to a lower caste. Such people do not consider Mahaprasadam transcendental, and therefore they are described here as murka, foolish, and dushta, mischievous. A pure devotee has the power to challenge such high caste people, and his brave statements are not to be considered proud or puffed up. On the contrary, he is to be considered straightforward. Such a person does not like to flatter high-class Brahmanas who belong to the non-Vaishnava community. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Text 184. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the Vedas, Puranas, and great learned sages are not always in agreement with one another. Consequently, there are different religious principles. Purport. Unless one comes to the absolute truth, there is no possibility of agreement. Na sa rishir yasamatam nabinam. It is said that a great learned scholar or sage cannot be exalted unless he disagrees with other scholars and sages. On the material platform, there is no possibility of agreement. Therefore, there are different kinds of religious systems. But the absolute truth is one. And when one is situated in the absolute truth, there is no disagreement. On that absolute platform, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipable. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 1855, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatpataha. On the absolute platform, the worshipful deity is one, and the process of worship is also one. That process is bhakti. There are so many different religions throughout the world because they are not all on the absolute platform of devotional service. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, 1866, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. The word ekam means one, Krishna. On this platform, there are no different religious systems. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 112, Dharma Prochita Caitanya-caritämrta. On the material platform, religious systems are different. Srimad Bhagavatam describes them from the very beginning as Dharma Kaitava, cheating religions. None of these religions is actually genuine. The genuine religious system is that which enables one to become a lover of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the words of Srimad Bhagavatam 126, Savai Pumsang Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Atok Saje Ahai Tukiya Apratiyata Yayatma Supersedati. The occupation, the supreme occupation, Dharma, for all humanity, is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. On this platform, there is nothing but the service of the Lord. When a person has no ulterior motive, there is certainly oneness and agreement of principles. Since everyone has a different body and mind, different types of religions are needed. But when one is situated on the spiritual platform, there are no bodily and mental differences. Consequently, on the absolute platform, there is oneness in religion. And we will stop here. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for coming to here and being my friends. Hare Krishna. Any comments, reflections, discussions, so forth?
Rati Manjari says, Jai Guru Maharaj.
Jai Rati, thanks for sending me that clip about the Sankirtan program. It was very ecstatic. Now I'm old and decrepit and I can't move, I can't travel, I can't even dance. Hare Krishna. What a revoltant development that is. But I have to say that by hearing your clips of your kirtans and the programs you're participating in or even organizing sometimes, I feel that I'm got my life back. Just like when I chant the Sri Caitanya-caritämrta with the devotees, I get my life back. Hare Krishna.
She says, in the eye of the storm flows the nectar.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was a very interesting point I'd like to discuss for just a minute. how it is that when Shukadeva Goswami came into the arena on the bank of the Yamuna, where Parikshit Maharaj was sitting, and all the sages from all over the universe had assembled. Some of those sages were not pure devotees. They were different sages. And as we heard in this one purport, one can't be a very elevated sage unless he has different opinions of other sages. This is the business of the munis. And Tarko Pratishtam Shutiyo Babinam. They argue, or they have differences of opinion, and they elevate one another and put each other in different categories of stature according to their ability to defeat the others in argument. So there was Parikshit Maharaj. He was inquiring from these sages, and they all didn't agree what he should do now at the time of death. And then Shukadeva Goswami came in, and everyone, except maybe for Vyasadeva, his father, and Lord Brahma, whoever else was there that was very, very exalted, everyone just fell down and offered obeisances just by looking at him. And he was young, 16 years old or less, naked, running around just without bathing, just completely detached. But he held in his heart the Srimad Bhagavatam that he had heard from Vyasadeva, the Bhagavatam, the absolute truth. And therefore, all those sages agreed instantaneously to put him on the seat. And Maharaj Parikshit inquired from him, and the result is that we have the Srimad Bhagavatam in its entirety, in its present form. So isn't that wonderful? Until one comes to the point of accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the absolute truth, there's no question of entering into the absolute platform or spiritual life, spiritual religion, real religion. It's a simple point, but it's very profound. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya would eat and dance and chant and accept this Sanodiya Brahmana, which was socially a lower caste Brahmana, as his superior, his spiritual master. Because he was initiated by Madhya-lila Puri and therefore was the godbrother of his guru. Hare Krishna. This is the platform of oneness. To hear all these things, remember all these things, and follow them in our day-to-day lives. Practically apply them. Hare Krishna. Therefore we can feel happiness even in this chaos of what's going on in the world today. Because we are firmly implanted in the absolute truth given to us by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Do you remember in the beginning of Caitanya-caritämrta, it was stated that unless one gets the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he cannot go forward in spiritual life in this Kali Yuga. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Premavati.
She says, Hare Krishna, happy hour with Maharaj Caitanya-caritämrta reading Ki Jai.
Ki Jai Haribol, thank you very much.
Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai Ho.
So Devi Dasi said this at the beginning. She said, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, ready for more nectar. Saloni Sachi Sundari says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to your divine service. All glories to the devotees listening to the nectar.
Haribol. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Thank you.
Krishna Katha Prabhu says,
Krishna Katha. Haribol.
Says, Hare Krishna Gurudev, so nice to be with you live again.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. It's nice to be with you too.
Gopakanya Devi Dasi says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, happy Kartik, and all glories to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books.
Jai Haribol. Actually, technically, tonight is the beginning of Kartik. The full moon tonight is the beginning of Kartik, which means tomorrow is actually the first day of Kartik. The Kartik begins with the full moon. So yes, I have actually mentioned this very much in our readings, and I've been so absorbed, you have to forgive me, I'm a little off whack since I had this surgery. I've been a little bit kind of struggling to get back to normal. So, the normal things that I do to worship daily and according to the calendar have been kind of like, dislocated a little bit. So please forgive me for that. But yes, beginning tonight is Kartik Vrat, and there's all kinds of online parikramas and virtual parikramas and virtual discussions of the glories of Krishna consciousness and the glories of performing devotional service in this month of Kartik. So happy Kartik to everyone. Normally, for the last 19 years, I repeat, 19 years, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu and I have been reading Srila Prabhupada's books every day during Kartik for 5 hours a day, without fail. And the result is just wonderful. So, it's the best thing to do during Kartik Vrat, is to hear Prabhupada's books out loud as much as possible. Hare Krishna.
And something more from Krishna Premavati Devi Dasi. She says, yesterday there was the question about how to recognize Mayavadis, and you were going to elaborate further on it. You mentioned Mayavadis have difficulty chanting the name of Krishna, and even if they do not accept him as individual persons, as an individual person, and want to merge into him.
Well, in the West, those subtle differences are not so visible in impersonalists, but they're the common denominator of the impersonalist is that they cannot accept that God is a person. Therefore, you will see no form generally on the altar, and when they discuss, either they can't say the name of God because they consider it too pure or whatever. Sometimes in India even, they will have darshans that they'll only open the curtain for just a few seconds and then close it, because they think that the impure vision of the materialist will contaminate the deity. In other words, any thought that relativizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, puts him in a material position, is a Mayavadi conception. And even they talk flowery words. They'll say God is love. That's a, what's the word, a flag. The flag is being raised for the impersonalist. God is love. What does that mean? That God is love. Love can't even exist unless there's two There's the lover, there's the beloved, and there's the process of loving exchange. That's what love is. Not that God is love. So these are the hallmarks of impersonalists, impersonal philosophy, and impersonalists' personalities. And there's unlimited varieties, but that's the essence of it. Hare Krishna. And we should be very careful in dealing with them. As a matter of fact, we shouldn't deal with them. The Shastra says this is not a material concept. This is actually absolute truth. We should actually neglect them. We may have public preaching programs sometimes and big kirtans. And of course we welcome everyone, including the Mayavadis, because the holy name is so powerful that it can help them give up the impersonal conception and accept the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. But in general, individually, we should not associate with them. Because their philosophy is so dangerous and so poisonous. Lord Chaitanya said that anyone who hears it with submission, or even considers it to be true, their spiritual life is doomed. And there's the whole world now, if you just watch what's going on, the evidence is as clear as day, just how fallen the human society has become. This is all because of the spreading of Mayavad philosophy. Therefore, we should be very careful, not take it for granted, not minimize this instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Stay in the association of devotees who have full faith in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you will be protected from the Mayavad philosophy. Hare Krishna.
She also writes this, saying that she wanted to understand what you were saying yesterday, and this was the second point. In light of one's own limitations as persons themselves, they cannot conceive how God can be unlimited and still be a person.
That's right.
Brian Phillips says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay, let's hear it.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Brian, I'm waiting for you to change your macro. Hare Krishna. I say that with deep affection.
And a comment from Noel Craver.
Mm-hmm.
He says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and happy Kartik. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna, Noel.
I appreciated the personal excerpt from Srila Prabhupada about introducing the Maha Mantra in New York. So, do all people have dormant bhakti or love of Krishna and only some become realized? Or is it that only some are predisposed to Krishna consciousness?
Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sabhakabunoi. Pure Krishna consciousness is in the heart of every living being, because every living being is a part and parcel of Krishna. Satchidananda. The form of the living being is made of Satchidananda, the same as Krishna's form, Satchidananda. But the living beings is infinitesimal. The quantity of those things that the living being has is infinitesimal. And the quantity that the Supreme Lord has is infinite. That's the difference. They're both conscious living beings, and one is meant to serve the other in love. And that is the original position of all souls, all living beings, regardless of the body that they have. And they acquire those bodies in accordance with the interaction of the three modes of material nature, and they become conditioned by those modes. And they forget their love of God, and they think that they have love for other things, which is not actually love. It's actually lust. Hare Krishna.
He also writes, also I love in 17:161, where it says, quote, when the people saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dancing and chanting, they were struck with wonder, and they all said, such transcendental love is never an ordinary thing, unquote. That is why we must take kirtan to the streets and share.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that wonderful realization. Sharing. Sharing means caring. Caring means sharing.
Krishna Premavati Devidasi says the world would be a better place if there were no more cheating religions.
Yes, absolutely. But on the other hand, it's the nature of the material world. We have to learn it and go back to the spiritual world. Or live in the spiritual world while we're here. We can also do that. But now I have to stop. I thank you all very much for your patience with me, because I don't have the same stamina. But it's getting better gradually, slowly but surely. I'll be able to do my normal hour and a half, something like that. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same subject. Ecstatic love of Krishna. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.